This is an interview with Thompson L Holway for the Oral History Project of the Eastham Historical Society, and it's taking place in Tom's living room on Woodsong Drive in Eastham. The date is December 2nd, 2023, and the interviewers are Rick Lindholm and myself, Marca Daley.
Boy, can you believe it's 2023? I think I've known you for at least 50 years now.
50 years at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
You went gill netting with me years ago.
yeah, we used
Out of
to
Hammett River. And that's a 20-foot boat that's sitting right outside the door here.
fish
And,
for mackerel.
Yep, we were getting gill netting mackerel in Cape Cod Bay. We're out actually down off of the Beach Point area in about 60 feet of water. And this time of year, the mackerel are migrating south. And these mackerel are like this. They're, probably a pound and a half or so. They're big. They're not tinker mackerel. And these things swim and they try to get through the net. They get caught by the gills. It's a gill net. And yet they're anchored on the bottom and they have a float with a ball on one end and floats across the top to keep the net floating on the surface. Well, they try to swim through and of course they get caught by the gills. So we used to take a nail for a pick to pick the stitch off the gills.
Oh.
And we did really good. This was like a lost art because all the old timers that did it had passed away. So this one guy, Captain John Silver, retired fisherman, had some nets that he gave me, and he said, "Tom, I got to teach you how to gill net mackerel." And he said, "No, we do it. You ought to be able to make a few bucks." So he gave me the nets, and he was the twine man. If they get torn up or destroyed, he would rebuild them up like this guy did. And we had a great season. I mean, God, we got mackerel like one particular net one day. It was blowing a gale of wind too, and the net was full of mackerel. Well, I had to. It was so choppy that I couldn't even attempt to pick the mackerel out of the net out there while I was still attached to the anchor. So I backed the boat down, peeled the net into the boat, and I went from one side of the engine hatch all the way up across in front of the console and all the way down about this high in the boat. And then coming back to Hammett River, I had about a foot freeboard, but I was going fair wind too.
Mm-hmm.
And Louis Ding was doing it too. He started to do it. And he was out there, "Tommy, I'm going to follow you all the way back to Hammett because I'm afraid you're going to sink." So he followed me all the way back to the mouth of Hammett River.
When was this?
This is back in 1975.
Wow.
Okay, so now this is the same boat that's right out here in the yard that I'm restoring for my grandson. That boat's 51 years old. I bought that at Nauset Marine from Phil. And I paid $6,100 for it brand new. Imagine that. Fiberglass is in good shape. I'm restoring it. I'm going to put another engine in it. And then when I get it all done by springtime, I'm handing the key over to Camden. It's going to be his boat.
Yeah.
So we did that. And then you and Johnny Shacklick were out there with me one day. And we'd lost a net. We'd lost contact. It had gone. So I saw the ball inshore and I said, "My God, there's got to be a net." So we went in there and it wasn't all the way to the beach. And this thing was not my net. There was a ball attached to a crate. And we opened the crate and there were 87 lobsters all banded in that crate. And the crate was attached to a chain. And the chain finally hit the bottom and stopped it like it was anchored. Otherwise it would hit the beach. So we emptied the contents and we divided them because there was Rick, Laura, Johnny, Chocolate, and myself, the three of us. So we divided them 3 ways, 87 divided by 3. So we had a lobster feed, needless to say. And that was just unbelievable. But what happened, I believe, that crate, the thimble must have come out of the chain and it drifted all the way from the other side of Cape Cod Bay all the way to the Truro shore, and it stopped when the chain hit the bottom. It couldn't hit the beach. So we lucked out.
Wow.
And that was unbelievable, you know.
Hey, Tommy, let's start at the beginning. Like, how did your family get to the Cape?
Okay, well, my family came to the Cape. I had 2 relatives came over the Mayflower, Stephen Hopkins and Elder Brewster. My they were, pilgrims. My great-grandfather, John McKay, and his name when he came to Wellfleet was Mulcrahy. And they changed it to McKay, M-C-K-A-Y, and I haven't the faintest clue why, you know?
Yeah.
I even asked some Irish kids that were working with me at Ocean Edge this year, if they know. I said, well, maybe they just figured it was easier cut to spell the name. You know anything that good thing?
Hmm.
So, he and his wife were indentured servants. They came over with a family, and they paid their dues, and then when they were on their own, he became the first postmaster in Wellfleet. And at that time, there were no Catholic churches in Wellfleet. So my great-grandfather and family went to the Congregational Church, which still stands there today. And my great-aunt, Mary, her married name later was Mary Brown, she played the organ in that church for 40 years for nothing. Every Sunday.
Yeah.
Wow.
And she taught in Wellfleet school for like 43 years. And she taught a lot of people. And then she owned Brownie's Cabins up in South Wellfleet by the fire tower.
Oh, yeah.
And she had a little restaurant there, a little home-cooked food, nothing fancy, good food, plenty of it. And she did that for years until she retired. And then they made a duplex out of the restaurant, and they had the cabins there. And they were just, plain, they weren't anything fancy. And they rented those all summer long. And then, of course, in those days, she closed the restaurant, day before Labor Day, and they used up all the food they had. So at Labor Day, boom, they slammed the lock on the door, and that's the end of it, like everybody did then.
Yeah.
But we used to, my brother and I'd go up there, and we were, teenagers, and we'd spend the weekend, and we would finish the rest of the ice cream that was in that big freezer. Yeah, it was funny. I mean, she was so good to us. And, she was married, and she never had any children, but boy, she just loved us. We were grandnephews. And I think she was the one that really influenced my mother into going into teaching. Because when my mother started, before she even went to teacher's college, she used to go up and spend a day or so with my Aunt Mame in the school, the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
And she loved it. So she went to highest normal school, which is a teacher's college then. And she graduated there. She went with Mary DeWatt from North Truro and Kay Higgins from Rhode Island. They used to call them the Three Musketeers. And they graduated from there, and each one, of course, Mary taught in Truro. She taught the 3rd grade. And my mother taught her first year in Woods Hole, a little white schoolhouse, which is still there today. And I took my wife up one time to see the place, and I wanted to see it myself too. It's right up on the hill overlooking the town.
Yeah.
And then she went from there, she got a job in Truro, and she taught for 57 years there, 5th grade. And she also used to, when a lot of Portuguese people are coming over from the Azores and Portugal, she used to do 2 or 3 nights a week to teach them how to read and write. And she loved doing that. And she, during her career at Truro, when Joe Peters, who was a principal, was in the American Red Cross, the last of World War II. She was the acting principal and taught 5th grade too, at no extra pay. She did a whole ball of wax. And I know a lot of guys that were in the, like the Korean War, some of these other wars. When they came back, the first place they go was to see my mother, that taught them in school. And boy, she taught a lot of kids. Her, towards the end of her career, she took the kids on the first field trip out of the Truro schools. And they went out on a fishing dragger out of P-Town Harbor. They went on Alfred Silver's boat.
Okay, yeah.
And they went out, and this way the kids got a chance to see how a fisherman operates, how they catch fish.
Mm-hmm.
And that was such a hit. I mean, my God, it's like, this way the kids know that you don't just get them out of fish market, you get them out of the sea.
Do you remember the name of the boat?
Jeez, I do.
What was your mother's name?
Her name was Emma Thompson. Yeah, and not the movie star.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
But she was such a,
She was a good cook. I remember.
my father was good. My father could fry fish better than anybody.
I remember
And
having
boy, we ate tons of fish.
Vinho D'alhos at your mother's house. And it
Catfish
was
and Vinho D'alhos, that's a Portuguese dish. It's a saltwater catfish
Yeah.
that you can't take now. You can't take them at all now.
No?
No.
Oh, okay.
They're on the endangered species, and they were bottom feeder. They're right behind them with big teeth, and they eat shellfish,
Yeah.
crabs, anything like that on the bottom. You can't take them anymore. But what the Portuguese people do, or anybody that knows how to do it, and we do, you would steak the cod. Well, first thing you do, you skin the catfish. Peel the skin off with a pair of pliers, and then you would steak them, not fillet, steak them through the backbone. And you put them in a big pan or a crock or anything else like that with a liquid made of vinegar, water, spices, and garlic. And you put these steaks in this, and the longer you soak them, the stronger they get. And I like them pretty strong. I love garlic. And these things are just delicious.
Oh, yeah.
But you can't do it anymore. And the last time we had them was when my father, well, yeah, probably when my father died. But you used to be able to go to Pittsburgh Thompson in Provincetown on Bradford Street. And they had a family restaurant there, and they had it on Sundays only, when you could still take the catfish. And they did a great business. But,
So how long did you live in Provincetown?
I lived in Provincetown 4 years, and we moved to North Truro.
Okay.
And we moved to a house that we rented on Pond Road, and we're right across the street from Jack Noon's, the contractor. Well, the house that we were in was two-story, had no heating system. We had stoves for heat, fireplaces, like 4 of them. And because the fireplace, everything goes up the chimney. So we were there, and I can remember it was so cold one time, we closed the living room doors off. And when we did, we forgot to take the goldfish and the goldfish bowl out of the living room.
Yeah.
Well, that thing froze solid. He was like in a block of ice, and he was like,
Oh, no.
really. But I can remember it like it was yesterday, and it was so cold, and they're high ceilings, 10-foot ceilings.
Oh, boy.
And I remember another time when it was still there, and my brother and I decided we're going to clean the fireplace chimney so Santa Claus didn't get dirty coming down. And we got soot. I mean, we were covered. And that was one of the things I can remember, like, not even vaguely. I mean, I can remember it like it was
What
yesterday.
did your mother and father say?
Well, what can I say? Put us in the shower. You know? Right. But that, and so now my folks decide they want to build a house. So they want to build a house on the side of a hill on the land my grandfather Thompson owned. As you're going up the hill towards Peters Hill on the left, he owned all of that up, all the way up to the North Cemetery.
In Truro.
in North Truro.
Yeah.
North Truro.
North
There is
Truro.
a difference.
Yep.
You say Truro and North Truro, and people, if they're in one other town, they don't like the other guys. But anyways, we cleared the land, and we were getting ready to do that. And my grandfather's sister, her name was Mary Rose, married name. She lived in North Attleboro. And the house she owned next to Christian Union Church was her summer home. And she was a teacher in North Attleboro, and her husband was in the wholesale jewelry and precious stone business there in North Attleboro. So she decided, well, she gave the house to my mother.
Oh, wow.
And they gave the house to my mother, and all the contents went to my Aunt Mildred, who would be my mother's sister. She was married to Wesley Guerin, who was in the Navy for years, and then he became the postmaster in North Truro. So we moved there, and she was a member of the church next door, and my dad was a deacon. And she played the organ for probably better than 40 years for nothing. She didn't have to drive anywhere, just walk right next door. 150 feet to the church, not even that. And she did that for years.
Wow.
And my dad used to go over, turn the thermostat up and down, and all the stuff, and he lighted candles and stuff. And so it was like a family thing. And of course, I had no excuse not to go to church on Sunday. But yeah, and then of course I can remember in the summertime, they used to do these ham and bean suppers, to raise money to pay the minister.
Mm-hmm.
And they, of course, had the parsonage across the street. And when they had a full-time minister, and that would be my Uncle Wesley's father, Charles Guerin. He was a minister there for years and lived in the parsonage. And then he went from there to Amesbury, had another church in Amesbury, so we lost him. But we've had a number of ministers. We shared one. His name was Reverend Lynn P. Townsend. He had the Congregational Church in Wellesley, and he also had the Christian Union Church in North Truro. Nice guy. And so he had that for years, and then later on we had others. And then we had a young couple, Calvin Babcock and his wife and children, and they were there for a number of years. And then they left. They lived in the parsonage, and they left to upstate New York. That's where they were from. And he got a church, and then he's not even a minister. He has something to do with drug addiction and that sort of stuff. But they were nice people. They were great people, and they used to come down and spend Thanksgiving with my mother and father.
So how did you get to Eastham, and when?
Well, I got to Eastham through years ago. My first marriage, she married a milkman. I was working for Hood's wholesale, and I was delivering from Yarmouth to Chatham down Route 28. And her mother had a grocery store, and they had an apartment upstairs. So I met her, and so she worked for Butner's in Hyannis. And
What's Butner's?
it was a clothing store.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very
And,
well
still,
known.
It's still in business too.
Yeah.
Today.
Oh, it is? Oh.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So she worked there, and then I came back down Cape and worked Truro to Provincetown wholesale, summertime. Well, I started doing that after Memorial Day. They had a summer plant for the retail trucks for Hoods down there, and the wholesale me from North Truro to P-Town. And my brother Rusty worked for me as a helper on a truck. Okay, at that time, I started playing ball for Eastham AA, which no longer was in existence, and it was the last year they had a team. And in those days, there weren't any light towers. I can't know, with the exception of Ezra Baker School. The field there was the only one that had light towers, and they were awful. they weren't really adequate. But I played for them, and the manager of the team was Winnie Knowles, the chief of police.
My uncle.
So, really? Your uncle? Oh my God. So, I'm playing center field for them. I played high school ball, then I got a scholarship to play baseball in Tilton Academy, and I got homesick and left there and came back and went to work. But in 1954, I was making $350 a week as a milkman for Hoods. But now, here's the problem. They didn't want any of their employees playing any sports, because if they got hurt, that would mess up their schedule and so forth. So I had to sign a written agreement that if I got caught playing any sports, I was fired. So what I had to do when I played for Eastham, I had to make sure that nobody ever got a picture of me in the Cape Cod Standard Times, the sports section, number one. And number two, I had to play under a fictitious name, which was not Thom Holway. It was Tom McAlpine, who would be my future father-in-law that summer. That would be Jackie's,
Yeah.
you know Jackie,
Yeah,
Jackie's stepfather.
okay.
Now her father was Jackie's own father was a full-blooded Apache Indian that jumped the reservation in Oklahoma and came to Maine. And he lived up in Maine. And that's where Jackie's mother met him. So that was her father, a real Apache. And that's why that boat's named Apache Truro, because I named it after them.
Yeah.
And of course my son his grandfather was a full-blooded Apache. So I played for Eastham. It was the last year they were in the Cape Cod Baseball League.
Do you remember what year that was?
It was 1954.
Okay.
Okay. We had a 34 game schedule that year. In 34 games, I hit 320 and I had 18 home runs. I had 1 right-handed and 17 left-handed. And needless to say, I had some people looking at me to play in the majors. And stupid me, I got married instead. That's what happened.
Yeah.
You know? So later, I was when I.
And you were telling me that Nate Nickerson, old Nate and his wife.
Nate Nickerson Sr. and his wife, and they were running Bill's place down by Jimmy D's.
Mm-hmm. Bill Hawkinen.
Yeah,
There was
Bill Hawkinen
Right.
owned it. Right, they
Marie.
worked there for Bill.
Yep.
Okay, so when we played games, they were both right there in the front row cheering the team on. I can remember like it was yesterday. They were so nice. And they always used to bring a bottle of water, you know, so we have something to drink because, you know, it gets a little warm. And in those days, the uniforms we had were made of flannel, and boy, they make you sweat and do you itch. They're not too pleasant, you know, not like today's thing. But I played, and I had some great games. I can remember one in particular in Orleans, and our home field was down by the Catholic Church. That's what we played, that's hometown.
Yeah.
Okay, we played in Orleans. Home plate was down where the traffic light is today, and you hit back towards the school, looking into the sunlight as it sunk towards the schoolhouse. I played center field, so I'm out there. There's a snow fence like this all the way around the outfields. Stanley Wilcox and the Wilcox boys were great ball players, all of them. Now Stanley was a left-handed power hitter, and I played him to pull the ball a little bit to his right center. Well, he hit one back there, and I went right back to the fence, jumped, and got it right in the webbing. And he was standing, he thought it was gone. He was so mad, he took the bat and threw it right down the third base line, and it hit 2 or 3 people. And I got, I mean, it hurt him. I mean, didn't kill him, but it, did a
Right.
job on him. So that was a third out with 2 men on. So when I came in, my turn, I'm leading off that next inning, and the guy that was the umpire behind the plate was Dick Stevenson, who owned the Shirley L years ago.
Yep.
And he, years ago, when my brother and I delivered newspapers in North Truro for the Standard Times, we were like 12 years old, he used to deliver the bundles of newspapers to us. And we delivered all in North
Yep.
Truro. So I said, Dick, I said, you wouldn't dare to throw Stanley Wilcox out here because his own man owns half of Orleans. He said, Tom, you're right. And that's exactly what he said. You're right. But I played some great games there. And I played against Carl Clark, who was a great friend of mine. And I played with him in the Old Timer Softball League for 10 years for Ben and Jerry's. And Carl played with me for 10 years. My brother, who passed away before I had the heart problem 3 years ago, he died. Malcolm Rose just passed away. He had Alzheimer's. He was down in Georgia in a home. His daughter teaches down there. And Francis Silva, who played shortstop for us, he had a stroke and a heart problem. He can't walk too good. He's still alive. And then me. And I played with those guys for 10 years for Ben and Jerry's.
So when was this?
I mean?
When was this? What years?
That would be, oh God.
About.
See, I started playing when I was 55 years old. And I played for 30 years in that league.
You never told us when you were born yet.
Oh, I was born on March 30th, 1934.
Okay.
And my 34 is Big Poppy, who was my friend, number 34. How's that?
That's
My
great.
big hero was Ted Williams, number 9. And everything I ever played in sports, I had a 9 on my back. And my 2 grandchildren right now have my number on their back. And they're hockey players, and they can play.
How did you ever get playing with the Red Sox in Florida?
Working for them?
Yeah.
Well, this is, we were riding, my wife and I are riding we're riding to Florida. And before I worked for him. And Dan Del Monte, who I played against up here, he played for Yarmouth and I played for Ben and Jerry's. And when we played them, if we were on a field where there were other fields, people playing, they stopped to watch our game because it was like the Yankees-Red Sox series. It was just so great, And I'm a competitive person. I don't play to lose, I play to win. And I forgot to tell you that when I played for Eastham, after doing that, because I bat right and left-handed, and I coached Little League in Truro for 20 years. I was on the Recreation Commission there for years, before I became a selectman in '71. Okay, in 20 years, I played every single kid that was playing for me, at least half of the game. And if they made an error or something, I didn't scream at them. After the game was over, I'd take them inside and say, well, this is the way we do it. And in 20 years, I came in first place 13 times.
Wow.
And it was so much fun. I can truthfully say that I had more fun coaching those kids than I did playing myself.
Mm-hmm.
I got so much satisfaction out of it. And I still today have one guy who calls me from Reno, Nevada. He just retired from the city of Reno, worked for the park department. He lived in back of Snowsfield where the Little League played in Truro. And he's out there, he calls me twice a month to see how I'm doing. Because I think he's homesick for Truro too. I think that's another thing. And he was a good ball player. He was a shortstop, and he singles and doubles, and he could put the ball
What
through
was
the
his
holes. His name was Paul Oliveira. And his dad was the treasurer of Seaman Savings Bank in P-Town. And he was on the Recreation Commission with me. Frank Olivero was his name. He was with them. But that was such a good time. And so to get back to driving down to Florida, phone rings, cell phone, I don't talk when I'm driving. It was Dan. Say, Tom, he says, and he was a big joker. How'd you like to work for the Boston Red Sox in spring training? So I said, geez. I said, come on, you're joking. He said, no. I said, you take this phone number. He gave me the phone number. My wife talked on the phones, because I won't talk driving.
Yeah.
And she took the phone number and the guy, he said, you tell this guy, I said, to hire you. I called the guy, I got the job over the phone driving to Florida. And it would be, this next spring, it would be my 17th year with the Red Sox, in spring training only. That's all I do.
And you're still doing it.
Pardon me?
You're still doing it.
Oh, yes. Every year, I'm leaving here the last day of December, and I'm out of here, and we stay January, February, March, and my first day at work for them is the 22nd of February. That's open house. And we have all these people come onto the field. We let them go. I can put ball on tees to let kids hit them in center field on the Red Sox playing surface. This is JetBlue Park, Fort Myers.
Mm-hmm.
The dimensions are exactly the same as Fenway in Boston. Exactly. And this place holds 12,500 people. And most all of the ones in Florida only hold 8,400. And we used to fill it right to the capacity, but since we lost Mookie, it's not so anymore. So I do 4 different jobs. I'm an usher, that's my real job. I do security. If somebody's sick in the parking lot, I go out for the day and collect $10 to park. Beat 60 in Boston. And then I also do metal detector like you would at the airport. They train me to do that. So I do 4 different jobs. So in 2007, 13, and 18, I got a real World Series ring. It's like mammoth. And so I told Camden, who was good in school, great hockey player, I said, Camden, it's the year 2013. If the Red Sox win, if they do, and they haven't won yet, the World Series, if they win, and I get a World Series ring, and you do good in hockey, you do good in school, I'll give you the ring. Well, everything fell into place, and I gave him the ring, and I got it.
Wow.
I came home, I presented it to him. So he has it, and I have 2.
That's
So,
wonderful.
That's amazing, you know, and they're mammoth. If you hit somebody, you punch somebody, you break the jaw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they're mammoth. So, and then what they do, I'm the oldest employee with the Red Sox in spring training. So as a result, the last 5 years, they have the service people, which are in red shirts, so I'm in the light blue. They come up to my section, I'm in the right field grandstand. I was right above Mookie Betts, and I had to hand bottles of water down to him during the game. And the next spring, I was going to bowl with him downtown because he is on a pro tour during the off season. And he has 4 perfect games. Well, I bowled years ago at North Truro Air Force Base, and when they closed, we moved our league to Yarmouth, Ryan Amusement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I bowled 1 night a week, and there's only 3 games, and we bowled 35 weeks when we were up here. We don't anymore. And in 35 weeks, I had a 200 average. I was 75 years old. So I did pretty good. So I bowled in a tournament down in Falmouth that same year when I was 75. I missed a perfect game by 1 lousy 10-pin. And I would have $10,000 in my hand. And so the next week, I signed up to bowl in the Pro-Am down at the Greater Hartford Open. So you bowl with 3 different pros, and I beat all 3 pros. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
And my sister-in-law taped the whole thing so I have it in film.
Oh, that's
Isn't it amazing? And she
Wow.
lived a mile away from the Greater Hartford, from the Bradley Bowl. And they never went in the place till I went to bowl there. Imagine that. And it was so nice. And the 3 guys I bowled with, they were nice guys. And of course, I bowled with 3 other civilians, you know, like me, you know, bowlers, and 1 pro each game. But each game I beat all 3 pros.
wow.
And some of my games are like in the 240s, 245. So I felt pretty good. But you know, years ago, this would be in the early 70s, there was 1 year of fast pitch league. So I pitched for Sal's Italian restaurant, Sal's place.
Yep.
I pitched in back of the Provincetown Monument, Pilgrim Monument. I pitched there during the day, they call it the Spaghetti League. So yeah, and so I pitched for him, and I won 15 out of 15 games. And fast pitch, I could throw the ball 90 miles an hour underhand because I was throwing a 16-pound bowling ball. And you go to a thing that only weighs 4 ounces, I mean, you can whale it.
Yeah.
And so, in a 7-inning game, that's 21 outs, 16 to 18 were strikeouts by me. And nobody ever got a home run off of me. Same year, in the night league, I pitched for the Beachcomber in Wellfleet, down at Mayo Beach, in back of the bookstore. And my grandfather Thompson played for Wellfleet in the Cape Cod Baseball League on that same field that I pitched softball that many years down the road later.
Wow.
Billy Galvin was the manager of the Beachcomber. And I pitched for them, and I won 15 out of 15 there too. And one night I had 3 home runs off the roof of the Building Cape Motel right next door. Off the roof. I bat right and left-handed. And if there are men on base, I bat left-handed. If there's nobody on, I bat right-handed because I hit for a higher average. And I did that Cape Cod Baseball League, high school. My high school coach was Joe Kelly, and he played minor league ball for the Pawtucket Red Sox years ago. Nice guy. But baseball was my best sport. I played football, and I could shoot baskets like crazy. I could pop shots from half court. And Murphy, the high school coach, tried to beg me into, but I didn't really care for basketball. But I could pop them from half court.
Tommy, I was just thinking of, well, baseball and milkman. There was we had a kid in our class, Marca's, my class,
All right.
Mark McCrae.
He pitched against me. I used to hit the daylights out of him.
Oh, okay.
Mac McCrae.
McCrae.
Right. And he worked for Acme Laundry years ago.
Is that, I thought it was a milkman, but okay.
No.
No.
Acme Laundry for years.
And
This guy,
he lived next
he was
door
a good
to
pitcher,
the
but I
milkman.
where?
He lived next door to the milkman up on Bridge Road. Governor Prince.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Charlie Gunn, I think.
Gunn, yeah.
He
yeah.
married a young. She was a young.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to suggest, first of all,
Yeah.
I'm going to thank you so much for these stories of sports on the Cape. They're wonderful. And I'm going to stop the camera so
Right.
that we can start it again
Okay.
with another topic perhaps.
Okay, sure.
Because you've
sure.
done,
No problem.
it's really
I want to
wonderful.
ask you
Yeah.
about Holway Oil,
Yeah.
all about that, the boat. I want to ask you about your arrowheads,
My
Well,
what?
your arrowhead collection.
Oh, yes.
Let me put the
I gotta
camera
show-
off first.
I'll let
Then-
Yeah.
I will have to show you that arrowhead collection. I have it right here in the house.
Thank you so much for this first part.
Mhm.
And we'll continue with part 2.